Thanks for
Yeah,
joining today. What's going on, dude?
man, I'm excited to be here. Thanks
Well,
for having
welcome.
me.
Welcome to On the Road to Rock. You are this is a tremendous honor to have you, Omar Doom, on the show, who's lamenting quite a summer here of music release and some live shows, as I understand it. Just talk about it. I mean, this has been an incredibly busy summer, which is
Yeah,
always a good thing as you release Straight Razor Volume 2. It's been out now since I think June. So what's the reception been like now that it's had a chance to marinate here for a few months?
I've actually had a good response to everything. A lot of positive responses on online and reviews. Something just came out in the new magazine, new issue of Rue Morgue, and I think there's a review in there. I haven't read it yet, but so yeah, I released volume 2 in a couple months ago,
Yep.
and following that, I put out vinyl, which you can see right behind me, which has volume 1 and volume 2.
Very cool, and an awesome cover there, which is sort of you depicted as in a bit of a Romanian Dracula type pose there. And the let's face it, the album is it's kind of it's atmospheric, it's kind of brooding. It's got some real some real dark tones to it. I just think that this is maybe a big challenge. Take us through this, because to create music the way you do, an instrumental album, which is, you grew up playing so many different instruments, but to kind of put this together and to make an album out of it, not just release singles and hearing a song here or there, an album that's got to kind of connect. The songs kind of mean something together when played in an order, the same as, say, Led Zeppelin 2 would. So just talk about the challenges of that when you're trying to create an atmosphere or create a tone or a theme when you're doing these kind of instrumentals.
Well, the mood is really what I start with. I mean, I actually start with the drums, but even before that, there's a mood that I have in mind. And I usually don't know exactly what it's going to be in the end. Fortunately, I always surprise myself in a good way. And, there's been a couple of happy accidents here and there, but for the most part, I made exactly the songs I wanted to make. And there's a dark atmosphere that kind of looms over everything I do. And it's always been there since I was young. So even if I tried to, it just turns out sounding like this.
Well, I think that I like music that puts me in kind of a time or a place, or it's like, I mean, obviously you're also an actor and you've been a producer and been a part of soundtracks, so you'll understand this. But when I hear a lot of these songs, and like specifically a song like Enemy, it's like I can automatically picture a scene, and you just feel free to use this if this ever comes up. But I picture like a scene in a movie where it's like a dark underground nightclub, and like two cops are wading through a crowd of people trying to find a criminal or something that's holed out in this club, and there's gunshots fired and people flying. Like, it just puts me in this, it automatically puts me in this kind of moment. I mean, is that kind of what you go for? And is that something that you've kind of thought about along the way?
Yeah, well, before I answer that, there actually was a lot of comments on my page from different people saying that it should be in the next John Wick movie.
Okay, well, so I kind of nailed it there, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. and so yeah, I mean, that song, I was actually very angry when I wrote it.
I can tell.
Well, because I was having trouble with my hearing, and which I lost a lot of hearing in my right ear right before I started making it. And so it was hard it was the first song I had made since the hearing loss. So it was really difficult to get the mix right.
Interesting. So that's something that has befallen many artists in just the past several years. I think Huey Lewis experienced it, and it's been very troubling. So how's that been going? I mean, obviously not something that just comes back. You're just sort of living in this world now with suffering from the hearing loss. And
yeah, well, it has
that
loud ringing too.
Like tinnitus. I have a little of that myself on a smaller scale. Like it's not ringing. It's like a pounding, like a bass drum. Pretty sure Slayer actually is to blame for this. And I'm not kidding. Like after I left a Slayer concert, like a snare drum never went away in my inner ear. So
Yeah, well,
Wow.
I mean, I grew up playing drums with
Sure.
cymbals right by your ear, but I'm not complaining. I mean, this is part of being a musician. It's going to happen eventually to people. Um, yeah, and I was able to get through it. You know, I made a song that I was really proud of.
Yeah.
And and yeah, so I mean, I guess it didn't faze me.
I love the album. I love what you've done. Now you've been able to unveil this over the summer, as I understand it, in a live setting. Just kind of talk about what that's been like, what people can expect when they come see Omar Doom live, and what else you have coming up. If there's plans for kind of more shows coming up in 2022, or what's going on with that.
There's going to be remixes coming out. I'm not sure yet, but they're still being made. Remixes by people of Straight Razor. And that's going to be the next release.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very exciting. What about live shows? What it's going to kind of, is that still on the horizon? Still have more of that?
Oh yeah, I definitely want to do more of that. I have nothing planned right now. I kind of wanted to space things out a little bit, but I'll probably get back on that soon. So stay tuned for more updates on omardoom.com. I also just started a new Instagram just for Straight Razor.
Okay.
Official Straight Razor.
Official Straight Razor. Yeah, because I was seeing your just personal one here. So there's a one for the album, Straight Razor. That's amazing. So what were the shows like this summer? Where did you mostly around the LA area? What was it like? What's the atmosphere like at an Omar Doom show?
Well, it was actually New York, Philadelphia, Nashville, Detroit, Portland. I'm missing one, Sacramento. So I did actually go across the country and back.
Yeah.
And there were people there that knew my songs, you know, and it was nice to hear them cheer when songs were starting, you know, and so the word's getting out there.
What does it mean to you to be in a position like this, to release albums of songs that you've created? Obviously, you grew up a musician. That's what you are first, probably identify as first. You obviously have achieved fame in the acting world, along with several Quentin Tarantino films, but just the satisfaction, the career satisfaction of being able to do this and to do it successfully and to come out with this album. It just has to be a whole different level of gratification, doesn't it?
Well, I'm glad to have these songs out there because I really wanted them out there for quite some time. Some of them are a little older than others. Enemy's brand new. I made that right before, obviously. And so I'm really happy that they're out there and that I don't have to think about them anymore because I can only think about the new stuff now. Like that's kind of a relief. I'm really happy with it, of how it came out, you know, but I'm happy that I can move on now.
So interesting. So you're kind of one that's doesn't look back much. You're just kind of always evolving, always next thing, next project. That's
yeah. I'm probably gonna do a full album for Straight Razor. So yeah.
Sweet. That's tremendous. I got to ask you about soundtracks because you've been a part of some soundtracks before. Obviously, Quentin Tarantino, he's got to be one of the better, most eclectic directors when it comes to formulating a soundtrack. Have you guys ever just talked about soundtracks and the intricacies of how songs can work in a movie and how that
we have talked about that actually. He does something really interesting. He said this to the public, I can say it, but when he starts a movie, he listens to music first. He goes into his record room and starts finding the beat of the movie. So that was really interesting for me.
Wow. That is the true essence of artistry right there. And that just, Death Proof makes so much more sense now. That's great. That soundtrack in particular is probably my favorite one that he ever did. That's your first movie there. And I actually made the mistake of I was in college when Death Proof came out, Omar, and I made the mistake of using your line, telling a girl in that whimpery voice, I just want to make out. It didn't work for me. It did for you though, in the film. So I've harnessed a grudge all these years. I got you on this show for that purpose, to just tell you that just does not work for the average person, Omar. Come on. I love that scene though.
In the script, I do kiss her. We didn't end up filming that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Sorry
great.
to hear that though. I'm sorry to hear.
No,
that.
it's okay. I rebounded. It's all part of the experience, all part of growing up, all part of life. So it's all good there. So, as we, this last couple of years has been so crazy, man. So do you think that pandemic, more downtime, did that sort of guide you in the direction you talked about being angry? A lot of people were angry the last
Yeah.
couple of years. Is that sort of the antithesis, the genesis of some of these songs too?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of an end of the world kind of vibe in Enemy. I think it's, like,
Yeah.
what are we gonna do now?
Absolutely.
But yeah, pretty much.
I can definitely tell. I like that. So you kind of grew up though playing in harder rock bands. You're kind of a metal guy, right?
Yeah.
At its heart. So what are you listening to growing up? And that's probably a loaded question, but what kind of bands are you listening to that are influencing you?
I was big on the Ramones when I was like an early
Okay.
teenager. I followed them like the Grateful Dead, like I was able to see them, in the late 80s or early 90s in small bars, like with people just going crazy. It was just wild. When they play, it's like a freight train. It is so loud, hard, and fast. It's just something that I wish I could experience again. So anyway, so I was listening to a lot of stuff like that, Misfits, Ramones, and my neighbor was really into metal, and we used to skate together, and I'm a skateboarder, and he was really into metal, like Metallica,
Mhm.
AC/DC, Iron Maiden, and so we kind of like were introducing music to each other. And so I started listening to metal then, and then from metal I started, there was moved to industrial, and from industrial I moved to dance music, techno, house, and that's the chronology of my music.
And you can kind of hear that. It's like it all in some ways manifests itself in some ways
Yeah.
in what you do. And I think that that's what's great about hard rock music is that it's sort of derived from dark classical music anyway. So that music lives on. It can live on as synthesizer music, as kind of doomy, gloomy type music. That's what's great. It can manifest itself in many ways. I think it has in your work.
I actually love doom metal, and the name is just a coincidence because I named myself Omar Doom before that name came out.
I think that there's a patent involved there that we need to make sure that that should be all you. That should be royalties for you just for that. Do you remember what your first concert was? Was it the Ramones? Was that your first show ever?
No, I was in 5th grade. I saw Guns N' Roses at the Spectrum in Philly, and they were opening for Aerosmith. My dad took me.
like 87. That was
exactly
tour there. So you grew up in Philly.
Yeah. No, I grew up in like an hour and a half from Philly.
Okay.
In Lehigh Valley. I was born in Easton, Pennsylvania. It's like an hour from New York.
So man, that's pretty good first show. Your dad took you?
And then his parents took us to the Metallica and Justice for All tour show at the Stabler Arena in Bethlehem. That was pretty cool.
That's
because they had the big woman with the scales.
It fell apart during one. Yeah.
Yeah, she crumbled. We were, I was like pretty young, so it was all.
God, I want to say
we were all the way in the bleachers, and there wasn't that many people around us. There was a couple families here and there, but me and my friend were like, we have to headbang the whole time. They were just like Beavis and Butthead, like this the whole time. And I would look around sometimes, and people would just be like, "Oh my God, look at them!" We probably looked hysterical.
Oh, that tour though. That was I think Queensryche opened a lot of that. You might not remember the opener, but they did.
Booed so hard.
Really?
Yeah. People really want Metallica fans can be brutal. Like they want Metallica and they don't want anything else.
It was a weird time for Metallica though. It was like they were just starting to sort of elevate into the mainstream, and so like I could see where like a band like Queensryche, who had I think just done Operation Mindcrime, I don't think they'd done Empire yet. They still, you would thought it could have been a little more even. I mean, God, we were just a few years away from Metallica playing like the Monsters of Rock with like Van Halen and Dokken. So it was around that time that they just started heading onto another stratosphere, probably untouchable at that time. So That was probably just a bad timing there for poor Queensryche. So, that is amazing. So you're from that area. Are you a sports fan at all? Football season just kicked off. There's a lot of teams. Penn State, Philadelphia Eagles, Pittsburgh Steelers. Anything? You a fan of any of that?
I watch a lot of like motorcycle racing stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm into that.
And you're a skateboarder, so maybe more extreme sports for you.
Well, I watch a lot of skateboarding, of course.
Well, absolutely. That's fat. You're kind of a Renaissance man, Omar. Let's be honest. Like you kind of cover it all. You're like a Renaissance man.
Well, that I've heard that before.
Okay.
I don't know how much I can really say about that about myself. I don't know if I ever want to call myself a Renaissance man.
It's sort of yeah. Now that I think about it, like it's supposed to be like it's supposed to be a very dignifying thing, very very positive, but it comes off as a little strange when you hear it out loud. I'm a Renaissance man. Like you're supposed to be like wearing like suits and.
Yeah, I don't want to come off as arrogant.
You're anything but that. So, what else is coming up? What else you got? Any acting gigs? What else? What else we got coming up here?
Well, there's no solid acting gigs I can talk about right now, but I have written a couple horror scripts, and my plan is to combine all of those talents with soundtrack, writing, and directing a movie, which is going to happen. So
that's perfect because I see so much in your work that is, and I'm a horror just nut. So I've been like, I heard there's a new movie that's come out called Barbarian. Everyone's kind of talking about. That's the one that's got some buzz. So I don't know if you've seen it yet. Justin Long's in it.
I haven't seen it. I got to see Brad's movies first. There's Babylon, which is coming out.
Right? I heard that's awesome. Yeah, there you go.
And Bullet Train. Like I need to see those two first.
Okay, so you got that on the horizon. Got it. Okay, well, Omar, it's just been an honor. This is great. I just can't thank you enough for coming on the Road to Rock here to talk about the new album and to talk about everything that's going on in your world. Straight Razor Volume 2. It's out now. Check it out. And as always, the website omardoom.com. Yes.
Yes.
That's easy enough.
Very easy. There's lots of links there. You can go to different stuff or try out the new Instagram, Official Straight Razor, or Omar Doom.
I'm going to do all those things, sir. I'm a good listener. I will do it. Omar, thanks so much for joining us. Have a great day, sir. And we'll catch up soon, my man.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
You bet.